The idiom, a penny for your thoughts, has its origin in English language and dates back to the 16th century. Sir Thomas More is attributed with the phrase initial usage in 1522. In his book, Four Last Things, he wrote the variation idiom, a penny for your thought, where he used thought in a singular form rather than plural thoughts.
Hello, and welcome to the Mochiverse. I'm Linette.
And I'm Skip.
So, Skip, penny for your thoughts?
A penny for your thoughts. It's interesting because when I hear that terminology, I think back to a song that was kind of a
Yeah.
favorite of Susan and I when we were dating. It was by
Yes.
Tavares.
Penny for your thoughts, nickel for a kiss, and a
Yes, a
dime if you tell
dime
me
if you
that you
tell
love
me you
me.
love me. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. That
That's
that
the
was
first
kind
thing
of
I
a
thought of too.
yeah, exactly. And that was kind of a favorite of ours. And basically, the idiom is like asking someone to reveal their thoughts,
Yeah, yeah,
often when
what you
they are
thinking of?
preoccupied or quiet. Then synonyms, hey, what's on your mind? What's your take on this? What are you
Yeah.
thinking about? You care to share? That kind of stuff. So,
So it's funny because the first thing I think of is that song, of course. But
yeah.
then the second thing I think of is also kind of goofy and funny. It's not really used in this country, but it's used over in the UK. Have you ever heard of the term spend a penny?
Yes, I have heard it. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know what it relates to?
No,
So
enlighten me.
it's another way of politely or half politely saying you're about to go use the bathroom.
Oh,
So kind of
huh.
like I'm gonna go see a man about a horse kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So you don't want to say like I'm going to the toilet now, you know. So spend a penny
yeah.
is used because
Yep.
of pay toilets.
Right.
And
Hmm.
so I'm gonna go spend a penny.
Oh, cool.
It's used to be
Oh,
like I have to go to the bathroom now, bye.
wow. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
It's kind of cool. So that's neat. So, hey folks, welcome back. We're here for another week of trivia and interesting things and weird things and random things. Hopefully everybody's doing well. It's pretty nice here. It's I don't know about your neck of the woods. We're a little far away from each other, but not super far. But it tends to be that the weather is always different, even though we're not that far away. But here, it's really starting to almost feel like sweater weather.
Yeah, it was coolish this morning. When I say coolish, it's in the 70s, high
Yeah.
70s. It's going to warm up a little bit. I think the humidity is probably going to attribute to some uncomfortableness, although
Yeah.
they keep saying it's going to be dry. So when it's dry, the temperature feels rather pleasant, so.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really humid yesterday. And also, yesterday I had some shopping regret. We had some chairs on our porch, on
Mhm.
our patio that we really love. They're like those retro metal painted chairs,
Yeah,
very cool. But they were rusting and I had not taken the time. Originally, I was gonna try to sand the rust spots down and repaint them, but I
hmm,
never really took the time to do that. So the rust got really bad. And so it
right.
was kind of starting to be time to get rid of them and get new chairs. And we were going to wait till the end of the summer because we were thinking, oh, prices will be a little lower at the end of the summer. Well, it's kind of true, except that also there's a lot less availability for chairs at the end of the summer because every retail outlet is putting out like Christmas and
Hmm.
Halloween and stuff. So there was kind of slim pickings when I started to look. And so I went online and picked out two chairs that I had never sat on and also that had to be put together. And putting
Okay.
together, yeah. So putting together furniture is annoying in itself, but you kind of get used to it after a while, putting together stuff. Putting together chairs can be really like awkward and ungainly.
Yeah.
And so I started putting them together. Richard came home from surfing, and so he was helping, and then he took over, and they were so frustrating to put together. Like, you know how sometimes the pieces just don't go together. The instructions are stupid. You can't really understand the angles.
Mhm.
So we did all that. We were sweating to death. The tools were, we had to get our own tools. We were stripping screws. I started crying. It was a whole thing. Then we finally got the stupid chairs put together, and they're so uncomfortable. Like,
That's not good.
they're
Yeah.
not even just, oh, I guess I could deal with it. They were like at a weird angle. It's one of those, those chairs that has like a little podium that it sits on so it can
Yeah.
kind of rock and swivel.
Mhm.
And it's one of those like beige ones that has the nice mesh that's good for
Yeah.
weather.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Really pretty looking.
Yeah.
And but the base that sits on top of the podium, it sits at an angle such that you're leaning forward when you're sitting.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
cannot get comfortable in that position. You
Mm.
can't lean back, you can't sit straight. Like you're sitting like you're falling off the chair the whole time. And they were also like you're just slightly too high on the
Yeah.
chair. So we're sitting on them and going, I guess I'll get used to it. But after a few minutes, like my legs hurt. I'm holding myself up while I'm sitting.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
back
It's
hurts,
not.
everything
No.
hurts. And after all of that effort, I was just like, God damn it. And we're like, I think we should just get rid of these chairs. So we got rid of them and we used DoorDash to get two plastic Adirondack chairs for now.
Yeah, it's funny. The only problem I have with Adirondack chairs is when you first sit in, I feel like you slide all the way back.
Oh, that's my
Um,
favorite part. Getting up is my least favorite part.
yeah, a lot of times putting chairs together or anything you're putting together lately is more the pictures are very confusing,
Yeah.
and the key to any of those assemblies I have always found is to keep all the screws loose until you get everything together,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you start tightening things up, and it goes together okay. Because if you start tightening up as you go along, by the time you get halfway through or three-quarters of the way through, the thing is just not lining up, and then you got to loosen all the screws anyways.
Oh,
So
yeah. And because, they were like the sort of metal that had the gunmetal finish on them, like
yeah,
the black
yeah.
finish, those,
Mhm.
they were also all scratched up before we even finished, right? Because, I don't know. I mean, if I was like super careful, I would put down the cardboard and be super, but I was just like, after a while, we were like, I don't care what these stupid things look like when they're done. Like, we were so mad at these stupid
Yeah,
chairs. And I
yeah,
hated them, and I was uncomfortable, and I was frustrated, and I was shaking, and I was upset. And I was like, get
yeah.
these goddamn chairs out of my sight. So we put them on the street, and somebody took them. Good for
Oh,
them.
of course they take them. It's
They had already taken the other ones. Now, if they hadn't already taken the other ones, we would have just put the old ones back and thought
back
about
there.
it for another couple weeks. But oh God. But anyway, so that was my adventure. But sweater weather's nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ethan Zuckerman, have you ever heard of him?
I'm not sure.
Okay, he's the inventor of pop-up ads.
Oh, oh.
Yeah, yeah. He apologized to the world for his extremely annoying creation in 2014.
That's great. He should.
He should, and yes, exactly. And did you know that most farts occur at night? I don't know. I never knew that.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
mine do. I mean, I don't know about
yeah,
you.
and this is hit you. When cats, when awake, cats spend up to 30% of their time grooming.
Yes.
Yeah, and
They never stop. It's so like, sometimes it's cute, like, oh, they're so sweet. They're grooming or whatever. They're having a little bath. Oh, you having a bath? But then like they do it when they're sitting on your lap too,
yeah,
and you're just trying to eat, and you like there's constant movement because they're
yep,
grooming for like 45 minutes straight, and you're
yep.
just like, will you sit still? You're driving me crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
and their tongues are rough and it makes a lot of noise
yes.
when they're doing it. Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
Isabel used to be Slurpy. She would make a lot of
oh, she's a
slurping
Slurpee.
noises.
Yeah, yeah. That's annoying too. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. I
So,
love it.
hey, do you know I found this to be a little strange because considering the arrogance of those of us who speak English,
Mm,
that 20% of the world's population speaks English.
yeah,
I
they do.
find that odd because it seems to me places I've been when I've been anywhere where the predominant language is not English, if somebody's looking for directions, they come up to you and they say, "Do you speak English?"
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard. It is. And I learned that actually a long time ago in school. And also, like, when you get to high school, you learn that when you start having exchange students and stuff. And they told you from their personal experience, they start teaching English to kids very early in other
Yeah.
countries, like all
Yeah.
of Europe and most of Asia. They will start to learn English very soon, and they add it into just the curriculum. But we don't start learning a language generally. It's earlier than it was in my generation, but my generation, you didn't start learning a language till high school. In Bev's generation, it was more like junior high age. They would
Yeah.
start to introduce another language.
Hmm.
And some schools do like Spanish
Right.
early on, depending on where they are and what state they are and things like that. But we're very, very behind on that. I think it's really great for, other countries to learn any second language. But the fact that they do English, I think it just has to do with a lot of business across the world is conducted in English.
Hmm.
Pilots all speak English, no matter what
Yeah.
country they're from, because the communication needs to be all the same.
Yeah.
And international relations are usually English. Like there's like English, French, Spanish, there's those kind of things.
Yeah. I always think it's like I equate some of it to, we've had this discussion before with sports. I really,
Hmm.
especially professional sports, a lot of times I'll see interviews, and I see this particularly in baseball, and you and I talked about this before. And these athletes are being interviewed, and they have an interpreter.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting to myself saying, okay, you're playing a sport where everything's communicated in English.
Hmm.
Yet no, you can't answer questions in English, even if it's broken English. And
Hmm.
I think they understand the bottom line to it is they understand the question
Yeah.
because when they're being asked the question, you can see them nodding their head, but they can't formulate it into English for an answer. Yeah, I feel like, it's like you have in industries, we did it at a company I work for, the English is second language classes.
Hmm.
And basically what you did is you teach these folks not necessarily how to speak English, but how to speak English
For
in
your
the
company.
terminology of the
Yes.
company you're working
Yeah.
for, which is appropriate to what you're doing. And I always think that that should be how it's handled in sports. And when I see that on, with and I said particularly because I see it in baseball,
Yeah.
uh, I think to tennis people all over the world, and every time they're interviewing somebody after a tennis match, and I don't care where they're from,
Yeah.
they're speaking English. You know.
Well, I think there's a couple of thoughts I have about that. I
Mhm.
think the first thing that came to my mind when you were saying it is the age factor. So a
Mhm.
lot of people in sports are quite young,
Yeah.
so they might need a little bit of help,
Yeah.
especially if English is their second language. It might be a little rusty, and they want to definitely understand the question. But the other big element is you probably learn enough English to play on your team and interact with your teammates and all of that kind of stuff and live in the country that you're living in while you're playing. But
Mhm.
being on camera and being in the public eye and representing your team, I bet it's a policy of the owners of the team that you be able to get your answers right for the media when you're asked a question, and you're not going to accidentally say something, you're not going to accidentally look bad, you're not going to accidentally say a thing that's wrong or bad or
Mhm.
apolitical or any of that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think they're just like, listen, let's get these guys an interpreter so that nothing weird happens on our watch as far as because it's on television, everybody's watching it. And then you know what happens when somebody says a slightly wrong thing on television?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody like jumps up all over them and start boycotting the whole team.
Yeah.
and all the sponsors, and then all the sponsors suffer. So it's like probably a legal thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it probably, yeah, it could be,
Plus, it
but
just
it's,
makes it easier to have even if you speak the language, it's easier to have a translator, you know?
yeah, and it can be a lot of times when I listen to what the answer is going to be, I just think to myself, I guess maybe a little naive. I think to myself that I hit the baseball into the outfield. I got a pitch I wanted to hit, you know, and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's just I knew the pitcher was going to pitch in a certain spot. Things like that. That seemed to be very neutral in terms of how you would answer it. It's you're not making a political statement, but you're right.
yeah,
It could be. I can see that aspect of it too. Is that the media, the control of the media is part of the issues that these sports teams have. It's very important to them.
yeah.
Uh,
Your image is very important. And also,
yeah.
like, a lot of kids watch sports, so you don't want anybody accidentally swearing or saying like things that aren't appropriate for children in this country
Mhm.
that might be appropriate for children in other countries.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain things that we don't like that other countries are totally fine with, and there's other things that we're fine with that other countries find offensive. So,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's probably just an abundance of caution and also just to help. I mean, and also like if you're a sports player and you're like 20 and you just came to this country
Mm.
and then all of a sudden somebody puts you on, you're playing your sport that you know you're good at, but then somebody puts you like in front of a camera with a microphone, you're probably scared to death. I would forget every word in that language that I was
Yeah.
taught. I wouldn't know what the hell was going on. So I would
Yeah.
really appreciate that translator,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. It could, and from being a devil's advocate,
Yeah.
is that, perhaps from the owner standpoint and the media control standpoint, is they're afraid they're going to ask them a question like, what did you think of this political action? You know, where the reality is,
Yeah.
the reality is as much as I've watched the games, and particularly baseball, not the other teams, not the other sports, not as much.
Yeah.
Uh, it's almost never, ever, ever they ask anything outside of baseball. You know,
Yeah.
where in sports like in football, there is a lot more controversy going on from with the media or things that are said by players or players that are controversial or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it seems to be more. I've seen that more in football, and I can understand the need to control the conversations at that point. Although you don't see it,
Yeah.
because when they're interviewed, they're speaking straight English,
Yeah.
but they do talk about the game. So it's very seldom they talk about anything else.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
It could just be more of a help, a convenience factor
could be, yeah,
to help
maybe,
these kids, because they are quite young and a lot of times some of the countries that they come from for baseball in particular are not like we were talking about before, how a lot of countries teach English at a very young age.
yeah.
A lot of the countries that they get baseball players that
Mhm.
I've noticed are not those countries. Like Central America, South American countries, they don't do that as much, I think, as like Europe and Asia and things
Yeah.
like that. So maybe they have less of a grasp on the English language when they come over here than somebody from like, you talk about tennis, that's like Russia and Germany and
Yeah,
Northern Europe and
that's probably more like it.
yeah, it could be
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of the because they do listen, I'm not a sports person. I don't know that much about sports. But just as much as I've observed from context, aren't a lot of baseball players from like the South American countries and
Now
like Mexico and things like that,
there's a trend
Cuba
for
and
that to
things. Yeah.
be the case.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. There are more and more of them in the in baseball and Major League Baseball and minor league baseball because they've expanded. They've gone outside the United States, and there's actually rules in place for where they can go,
Mm-hmm.
what they
Yeah.
can pay people,
Right.
and how much they can go into different countries, and
Right.
each team is sort of restricted by how much they can spend
That's
in
true.
looking in foreign countries for athletes. And it's a way to expand their uh, their field, for players, to get more
Well,
players.
and I imagine that different countries culturally play different sports too. Like,
Mhm,
hockey, a lot of the players that a lot of hockey teams get are from countries like Russia, Finland,
mhm,
Sweden,
right,
you know, because they play hockey there.
right,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's like, well,
yeah,
there's a lot of players in these countries that want to come here and play. Whereas like
yeah.
baseball, maybe there's a lot of, I mean, I'm surprised. Well, I guess because Japan has their own teams now that are getting very big.
Yeah, they do, and it's, maybe on the other side of it is that baseball is not as popular
Hmm.
with kids growing up as it used to be,
Yeah.
where now it's, football and basketball,
Yeah, that's true.
and to a much lesser extent, hockey, but more like the football and basketball, or basketball and football, whatever way you want to look at it. So they're more popular. So they have to go outside of the United States to get more types of players.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, so
All right. Well, sports,
okay,
folks. You got your
yeah,
sports fix.
that's the sports one. Yeah.
I got two big lists, which
Okay.
I guess I've been doing it that way lately. So my first one is actually a little bit shorter. So I think I'll do that first, and hopefully it'll lead into some fun discussion. This is kind of a sequel to a previous subject I did before.
Mhm.
Um, it's mostly about auctions of strange items, but sometimes just private sales of strange items.
Yeah.
So the fact that got me started was that William Shatner once sold one of his kidney stones for $25,000. uh,
Okay.
okay. Shout out to William Shatner, by the way. I think he's sick right now. I think he
Yeah.
went back in the
Yeah.
hospital again, so
Did the
hopefully he's
Gordon buy
okay.
it, or who bought it? Never mind.
Yeah, it didn't say who
Yeah.
bought it.
Yeah.
Probably a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
But so I found a bunch of other examples of that. So this one pops up in all the lists, so I included it. Elvis Presley's hair sold for $115,000 in 2002. 2002, people still thinking about Elvis. Like, I mean, people today are still thinking about Elvis, but I find that fascinating that somebody would still buy his hair in 2002.
I remember the very vividly the day he died. So
Yeah, yeah. I was
yeah.
alive, wasn't I? But I was little.
1977.
Okay, yeah. So I was little.
It was August something.
Yeah.
Uh, I was driving home, and this DJ who was always saying stupid stuff, that wasn't true, said Elvis Presley is dead, and I goes, "Hey, that's not funny."
Right, right.
That's all. That's what how I remember it. Yep.
Wow, that's interesting. More more music people. A lot of these are music people, of course. John Lennon. There are two John Lennon things. Actually, there were a few.
Mhm.
John Lennon's toilet. Somebody bought for 9,500 pounds, which I think was like 14,000 or something like that.
Yeah, it's got to be double that. Yeah, somewhere.
Something around up, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those like fancy toilets that has like it's like has flowers painted on it
Mhm.
and things like that. But also I didn't see I don't remember the price, but one of his teeth was sold. And then this was actually an interesting one. I couldn't believe people are buying and selling this, but so you remember what happened to him with Mark David Chapman.
Mhm.
You remember that Mark David Chapman killed him, shot him.
Right.
But do you remember that he had had an earlier interaction with John Lennon that I think it was that day?
Yeah, he got an autograph or something.
He did.
Yeah.
He approached Lennon outside of his home. He lived right in front of Central Park at that famous building
Hmm.
there. He approached him and asked him to sign a copy of his latest album,
Hmm.
which was Double Fantasy. And John Lennon signed it. And then he left, came back later and killed him. Somebody sold that album for $900,000 in 2020.
How'd they get a hold of that? Yeah.
Yeah. And I looked at it and I couldn't see the autograph on it. So it was framed and it said, "Here's the autograph picture." And I don't see a John Lennon autograph on it. I see some numbers written on it. So I wasn't sure. I only looked at it for a few minutes, but
Yeah.
that's that's kind of
Hmm.
crazy. But yeah, so that was John Lennon stuff. Uh, and then speaking of teeth, Churchill's dentures. He had like these gold plated dentures.
Mhm.
They sold in 2010 for 15,200 pounds.
Again, about 30,000.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Marilyn Monroe's happy birthday dress, which I think one of the Kardashians ended up wearing later.
Wearing?
And
Yeah.
yeah, she wore it for some sort of event or an award show, and she ended up like damaging it, and it was a
Oh,
big
I would think so.
controversy.
It bust out the seams or
Well,
something. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Um, that dress was sold for $1.26 million. The happy birthday dress.
In making that statement that I just did, I understood that Marilyn Monroe was either a size 12 or a size 14, something
She was
like
like a
that.
12 or 14, and she was reportedly sewn into that dress as well.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, and the person who wore it later, I think, maybe made some slight alterations, but still damaged the dress.
Right.
And it was
Well,
like a
it's
huge,
it's probably the big butt thing.
it was a big butt thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. I
Texas.
mean, hey, like big butts are nice, but like, please don't like destroy, I don't know.
Don't destroy dresses.
Don't destroy
Special
dresses.
dresses.
And
Yeah.
also, like, oh, I have to wear Marilyn Monroe's dress. Like, okay, whatever. Like, you could wear, they already wear like outrageously expensive clothes.
Yep.
And none of that belongs to them. Like, half the time they're borrowing
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, God. I almost went into a huge tangent on this because there's so many, but I think I might do it for a separate episode.
Mhm.
Somebody sold a ghost in a jar in New Zealand.
A ghost. Okay. So that's like selling air, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
ghost in this jar. 2,000 New Zealand dollars, which I don't know how that translates. I didn't look that up.
I don't either, so
But yeah,
that's
so $2,000 for a ghost. And then this kind of, I think this kind of stinks. I don't kind of like this, but Truman Capote, you know who he was.
mhm.
He had willed his ashes to Johnny Carson because apparently they were friends.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
And Johnny Carson died in 2005, and
Okay.
his wife died in 2015. And then they did an estate sale in 2016, and the ashes were among the things sold.
Huh.
Truman Capote's ashes. They sold for $43,750.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now that it's kind of, I don't like it,
Hmm.
but it kind of speaks to Johnny Carson, which I understand that he's part of American history now. And
Mhm.
I understand that he was beloved and everybody watched him and he had some funny moments and everything, but he was kind of a jerk and he did some really kind of crappy things over time. You know,
Yep.
there was some times that he acted really nasty. And
Mhm.
if you were such good friends with somebody that they willed you their ashes, I would feel like I would want to put those in my will to make sure that they didn't just end up in a Johnny Carson estate sale someday. You know what I
So
mean?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I would
Yeah.
want those to go to somebody who was important to me and maybe also Truman Capote. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe will them back to Harper Lee or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? She was still alive. I think she's gone now, but she
Mm.
was still alive. Maybe Harper Lee should have his ashes because they grew up together. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, or you could will it to the Archives Museum or something.
A
Yeah.
museum or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, instead of just like, I don't know, my wife will take care of it. And then what does the wife care? Apparently not, because 10 years later, she's like, I'm not going to do anything with this. And somebody
Yeah.
will just buy it in an estate sale.
Right. Yeah.
And who buys ashes in an estate sale? I guess because they're famous person's ashes,
Well,
but
that's the thing, it's
yeah.
just it's what they attribute whose ashes they are.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
so
But yeah, so, but that was my list. There were a lot of them that I didn't put down, but I mean, I think I want to put, I don't know if I want to do like eBay sales for my next idea, but
mhm.
there was a lot of things like, I don't know, there was like some article of food. I can't remember whether it was a piece of toast or something that looked like the Pope's
Oh
hat.
yeah, I've
And so
seen
it
it.
was like millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's silly. Those things I've seen things like that before,
Yeah, Jesus on a potato chip and things
right,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the Cheeto. Wasn't there like a Cheeto that sold for a whole bunch of money because it looked like something? I
Yeah,
don't
there's
know.
always these things that come up weirdly. And if it's a piece of food, eventually it's gonna rot out. and
Well, that's a
it'll change
thing.
its shape. Yeah. So
Yeah, and so
yeah.
oh my God. But yeah, that's really funny. I
Yeah.
liked those.
Which of the following things are Chinese inventions?
Okay.
Glass, rickshaws, chop suey, or fortune cookie?
I think none of them. I I know about the fortune cookie because I have
Yeah.
a whole book about it. Uh, yeah, I'm
Well,
gonna say like none of those things are Chinese inventions. They invented all the other stuff that we use like in other countries, but not those.
actually, chop suey,
Oh, chop
and
suey as well. Okay,
yeah,
that's fair.
it's not American.
No, not
It's a
American chop suey. No.
yeah. The dish is local to Tucson in southern Canton.
Okay.
It's called tisap soy, which means miscellaneous scraps in
Oh,
Cantonese.
okay.
Yeah, so it's chop suey. Glass isn't Chinese. It
No.
was first seen in Egypt in 1350 BC.
Yeah.
Chinese could never come to grips with transparent glass. They could never do it. They could do colored glass, but they couldn't do transparent glass.
Right.
Uh, the rickshaw was invented by an American missionary, John Scobie. He
Oh,
used
okay.
it to wheel his invalid wife in the streets of Japan in 1869. Fortune cookies, which is, I think we know this is American,
San
and they were
Francisco.
likely invented by a Japanese immigrant,
Hmm.
Makoto Hagawara,
Nice.
who started a tea room in San Francisco.
Yep.
He served sweet buns with
Hmm.
thank you notes inside, as a, to try to get people to come back to his
Yeah.
restaurant. Around 1906, Chinatown copied them and then put the fortunes inside, and that's how it expanded. And what's interesting is, we always hear, and I know the Chinese get knocked for a lot of stuff. There is a list of Chinese inventions. This is when I've seen this stuff before. I go, I didn't, you don't realize what these things that they invented.
I know spaghetti.
Well, abacus,
Yeah.
bells,
Yep.
brandy,
Hmm.
the calendar, the
Yep.
compass, the crossbow, the decimal system, drilling for oil,
Hmm.
fireworks, which we
I
know,
know about the fireworks. Yep.
yeah, the fishing reel, flamethrower, the flush toilet,
Nice.
gunpowder,
Yep.
which we know, helicopter, the horse collar, iron plow, the kite, lacquer, magic mirrors, matches, the mechanical clock, miniature hot air balloons, negative numbers, paper, parachutes, porcelain, printmaking, relief maps, rudders, seismographs, silk,
Yeah.
stirrups, suspension bridge, the umbrella, the water pump, and the wheelbarrow.
Yep. A
And
lot
I
of
think,
those make sense to me.
yeah, it's just amazing the number of inventions that they came up with.
Well, they had emperors. They had emperors very early on. In ancient China, the way the empires went, they had a certain kind of structure that you would imagine inventions would come from because they had a lot of emperors who were always looking for things.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well,
know?
things to make their
Yeah.
lives easier, and they would have ways of inventing stuff using whatever they have around them.
Hmm.
Uh, so
Hmm.
yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that was it was interesting the number of there was something else we did in a previous episode where there was like this whole bunch of things that these people invented that you say,
Yep.
wow, you just don't realize it.
Well, yeah,
So
and of course, because of trade,
mhm,
uh, in previous centuries, a lot of that stuff came over to like European cultures, and
yeah,
European cultures adopted them, and it became known more in the
yeah,
European like pasta. Spaghetti
yeah,
everybody thinks is like Italian, but there were some explorers who brought noodles from China, you
that's right.
know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the chop suey thing is interesting to me, and I do have because of course, but I have a funny chop suey story, and I have
Okay.
a fortune cookie story too. But the chop suey story I thought of first. So, American chop suey is a New England thing.
Mhm.
And everybody in New England has had American chop suey. We used to have it in schools, but we used to always make it and it's
Mhm.
delicious. It's wonderful. I'm going to be making some soon because it's one of my favorite things.
Explain American chop suey for those who
Oh,
don't
I
know what
should.
it is.
Yeah, if there's anybody who's not from New England. So American chop suey is basically you've got like noodles, usually macaroni noodles, but you can use other ones. I usually use macaroni or the
Elbow
elbows.
macaroni, I think.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
I usually use the big elbows if you have them, the small elbows if you don't. And like a tomato-based sauce, but it's not the same as spaghetti sauce. It's not like a bolognese.
Mhm.
It's like I use like a sauce that has a lot more big pieces of tomato and like that like chopped
Mhm.
tomatoes, diced tomatoes and tomato sauce. And then you usually have peppers and onions in it. So I put mushrooms in mine too.
Mhm.
And usually meat of some kind, usually beef or like a mix of different meats, ground meat. So it's kind of like a bolognese, but the sauce part is thinner than you would expect from like say spaghetti and meatballs, where it's not like a bunch of sauce. It's like just sort of coated, made into like a just like a yummy casserole kind of feeling situation there. And some places actually, other states that aren't New England states, make the same dish, but they call it goulash. So I don't know. I never knew it like that.
Yeah, the American chop suey from growing up, when you have a big family,
Yeah.
it was a dish that you put into a 9 by 16 pan.
Hmm.
And you have to think about it in terms of it's like the idea of a lasagna,
Hmm.
the same kind of thing where you're having sauce, meat, macaroni, sauce, and then cover the top with mozzarella, put in the oven, bake it
Oh.
through. Yeah, and
Oh, see,
that
I
was
never had it like that.
you never had it like that? Oh,
No, ours is like a one pot situation where it's all
yeah,
mixed together.
yeah, and my mother would make that. And actually, Corey, when they have family get-togethers, it's a dish that she will bring,
Nice.
which is exactly how my mother used to
Oh,
make
that's
it. And
cool. Yeah,
yeah,
that's different.
it I got to tell you, if you like all those things, and particularly the cheese just melting all the way through,
Yeah.
man, I got to tell you, it's really, really good stuff, and obviously high in cholesterol.
Oh,
But who
sure.
the hell
Well,
cares? It tastes good,
well,
So,
my American chop suey doesn't have any cheese in it at all.
mhm,
It's just like the pasta. And so my slightly funny story about that is
yeah,
because it's a New England thing, Richard had never heard of American chop suey.
mhm.
And so I made a big batch of it and he was like, "This is really good." And he took some to work and people were like, "Oh, what have you got there? What did she make for you?" And he said, "Oh, it's beefaroni." And I was like, I wasn't mad, but I was like, "You tell them that's not what it is."
Yeah,
Because I didn't want his coworkers to think I just opened up some cans of beefaroni and put them in a
yeah,
dish. I'm like, no, I cooked that and it's not beefaroni. And he goes, it is, it's beefaroni. I'm like, oh my
yeah,
God, no, do not call
yeah,
it that. That's wrong. But he also called gnocchi Japanese potatoes. So I don't know where
yeah.
I, he's like, oh, those Japanese potatoes. I'm like, Italian? What are you talking about? But anyway, that's
Okay.
what he had never had gnocchi before. But so that's my American chop suey story.
Oh, okay.
My fortune cookie story is so I had read a book about the history of the fortune cookie, and it was a really good book. I love that book. I need to read it again. And when I went to San Francisco, I sought out the fortune cookie company, the original fortune cookie company,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and it's the coolest thing. It's in Chinatown,
Hmm.
and it's hard to find because it's not like a big storefront.
Right.
It's it's in an alley somewhere in Chinatown, and it's like a very nondescript door that you go in, and the doors just open, and you walk in, and it's like it's smaller than a walk-in closet, this whole place. Okay. And over in the far corner, there was this huge like metal contraption that these women were sitting in front of that was like all iron and metal. It looked like something out of Willy Wonka, but not colorful.
Yeah.
And it was like pressing pressing the dough into these cookies and steam and all kinds of other things that were happening and heat and all this kind of fun stuff. And it was like fascinating to watch. So all the women were doing that in that corner. And the other corner closer to the door was like a rack with all these fresh fortune cookies, which I definitely took a bunch of.
Yeah.
And some of them were unfolded. You could just buy the discs and just eat that
Yeah.
because it's very good when they're not stale, by the way.
Yeah.
Most of the
Yeah.
ones you get at
Sure.
Chinese
Most
food
of
are
the time they're
stale.
stale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good if they're fresh. And then on
Yeah.
the other side, on the right, in this little rickety chair, was like a 106-year-old guy just sitting there. And it kind of reminded me of when we used to go to Maine
Yeah.
to go to like the cottage, and there
Yeah.
was that general store with the guy who became mayor, that guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
he was a super old guy sitting on a rocking chair outside of the gas station slash convenience store that had like one gas pump.
Yeah.
And he would just say stuff. And that's what this guy was doing. He was just saying stuff. He was just like,
Okay.
hello, hi, or whatever he was saying. He was saying like just old guy stuff. And then he gave me some fortune cookies and he reached into that hot metal iron thing and just
Hmm.
grabbed one and then handed it to me. He's like, here. And then he gave me a bag of the fortune cookies and he gave me this. And he's like, okay, you go now. And then I was pushed out the door.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was the coolest experience. I want to go back there because it was like
Oh,
really, really
cool.
cool. But yeah, that
That's
was
cool.
yeah, I love that. I love that. It was a great memory of San Francisco. And I love San Francisco.
So, we've heard this in the past is what or who is most likely to survive a nuclear war?
Yeah, they say cockroaches.
They say cockroaches, but they're not roaches, even though they've been around for 280 million years. The king of radiation resistance is bacterium
Hmm.
delavocus
Yep.
radiorun, which can tolerate 1.5 million rads when frozen, and its tolerance doubles. A roach dies at 20,000 rads.
Hmm.
The bacterium, it's known by its students as Conan the bacterium.
That's
It's
funny.
pink and smells like rotten cabbage.
Oh, nice.
And its resistance to radiation and cold can lead NASA scientists to believe that it might hold the key to life on Mars.
Yeah. There's years and years ago, when I used to go to those conventions in Boston,
Mhm.
they have really cool panels at conventions that I like because they're not necessarily related to fandoms, but they're also just really cool. A lot of them are science-based and things
Mhm.
like that. And one of the panels I went to was a biology panel about extremophiles, and it was talking all about different creatures of all kinds of all kinds of creatures and also
Yeah.
plants that can live in extreme environments, like worms that can live in like boiling temperatures
Right.
and like in the
Mhm.
sea,
Yeah.
and insects or other creatures that can live in like extreme cold or extreme heat,
Yeah.
and like you said, radiation. And you've heard of tardigrades, right? Who can live in space.
Yeah.
Tardigrades are very cool because they're like microscopic, but when you
Mhm.
see like a close-up microscope picture of them, they look like little teddy bears. They're very cute. And
Mhm.
they look like little fat things with like cute little arms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so those are very interesting. I wonder if tardigrades would be okay in radiation.
Yeah, it could be.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of bacterium and a lot of like viruses and things like that that can survive in extreme conditions. So
Yeah. It's
scary,
amazing.
but interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. Yeah. So, and I have one last one here.
Hmm.
Uh, is the answer to depression to walk it off?
It depends on what your depression is from. It really does.
Actually, actually, it's at least as effective as drugs. Recent research involving subjects in various range from like 24 to 45 found that regular exercise, half hour a day, 3 to 4 times a week, half hour, 3 to 4 times a week, is better than drugs and can actually reduce symptoms by 50%.
Mm.
It, scientifically, they were looking, scientists have looked at this. Science News did a story on it, and it was like placebos are more effective for curing depression than either drugs or herbal remedies. The series of trials carried out between 79 and 1996 a psychiatrist, Dr. R.F. Khan, found that St. John's wort completely cured 24% of cases.
Hmm.
The antidepressant Zoloft cured 25%. Sugar pill placebos affected a complete cure of 32% of patients. But the key there is that walking it off.
Hmm.
A lot of times with people that are depressed, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert of it, is they would, the depression triggers you to non-action, and
Yeah.
the argument to me, is a valid argument, is to get out and move around, you know,
Oh, sure.
and
I mean, there is some argument for increased blood flow,
Mhm.
physical activity, increased oxygen, and increased energy to all of your systems being helpful in times of stress, illness, or depression. And so there's an argument for that, I would say. I
Yep.
I am concerned about the blanket statement though, because there are thousands and thousands of different reasons for depression and thousands of different causes of depression,
Yep. Mhm.
and also lots of people who can't participate in physical activity and go for walks, and
Yeah.
also lots of people who their depression is too debilitating to get them to do something like that.
Yeah,
Also,
and
you know what I
that's
mean?
yeah, you're right. The thing of it is these kind of studies
Yeah.
don't always carry everything. They're really
No.
hitting a specific group, and
Sure.
maybe this specific group is volunteers, and it's possible that actually more likely that folks that have extreme uh, depression would not participate, would not even move to come to participate.
And also it can be troubling because it would encourage a culture of people thinking, well, you know,
You just walk it off.
just walk it off, don't take drugs, drugs are bad for you. And it has nothing to do with chemicals. It has nothing to do with your body processes. It's obviously something you're not doing and things like that. I don't like those kinds of things. It would definitely be a solution for some people. It'd definitely be a solution for a lot of people. And a lot of illnesses can be helped by walking.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
a lot of different things can be helped by walking. I mean, I didn't really think about it, but when I hurt my knee, the last thing I would have thought of was that walking would be good for it.
yep,
And it didn't feel great at first, but
yeah,
I started slow and I did some walking, and it did actually help my knee. It increased blood flow to the area, and it helped it wasn't just going to sit around and like, because I wanted to sit around because my knee hurt.
right,
And it gave me more energy and things like that. But it I did also stop walking after a while.
yeah,
But there were reasons for that. There's always a reason for that. But my reason was I was walking by myself and some guy creeped me out and I didn't want to go back there again.
yeah. Well, I think I've told you the story of one of my neighbors. Was in his late 80s, and he had called me one day and he wanted to borrow some crutches.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that's always been around doing stuff. And went and talked to him. I didn't have crutches, but I had a cane. And we talked a little bit about what was going on. It was pretty much what you just said, was
Yeah.
that he wasn't feeling well and he just didn't move around. Then all of a sudden, he's limping all over the place, can't hardly walk without some aid.
Yeah.
Um, so we talked a little bit about it, and basically was coming down to this walking. So he got the cane and he started, moving around more and going for walks.
Hmm.
And within, a few weeks time, I saw him and he says, "Hey, I'm not carrying the cane anymore." He said, "I'm walking without it." And so there are cases where it can be like that. It doesn't work for everybody, but I think the hardest part, it's like when you have an injury or something like that. The hardest part is getting up and moving, and
Yeah.
convincing yourself that moving is going to make it better, because it hurts to move.
Yeah. As long as you move
Uh,
in the right ways and not make the injury worse, you
yeah,
can you can definitely improve. I mean, but you're a good example of that because you're one of the few people I've ever met, and I've met a lot of people who've had injuries, surgeries, physical therapy,
Yep.
but you're one of the very few people I've ever met who actually does the at-home stuff and follows through and does the homework. And you've always recovered fully from all of your setbacks, whether it was a surgery or an injury. So,
Yeah, and it's exactly right. See, the way I look at it is when you have an injury or something or a surgery, and particularly if it's a knee or something like that, they'll send you to physical therapy, and the physical therapy isn't doesn't go on forever,
no.
but the physical therapy is usually only a couple times a week,
Yeah.
and that is not enough. So I was always subscribed to doing stuff at home, mimicking the physical therapy as much as I could without the equipment that they have, uh,
Yeah.
to follow the program when I'm not, when I'm not going to physical therapy. So if, for example, if and again, this is me, but if it was therapy was like a series of exercises, each one you only do once a day, and I would do it twice a day.
Yeah.
And the theory for me was that that initial twice a day over a short over amount of time becomes a point where the once a day is enough to maintain,
Yeah.
and then you bounce back. Yes, I have bounced back from some things that I've seen other folks not
Mhm.
not bounce back from. I guess is a
Yeah.
better
Oh,
way to
yeah.
say
No,
it.
I've seen plenty of
So
people, like have a knee surgery
yeah, yeah,
who
my
really
first,
never walk the same way again and always have a cane or something.
yeah, exactly. My very first knee surgery. It was 6 weeks after the surgery. I was back to doing everything I was going,
Hmm.
all the activities I'd done before. And
Yeah.
there was a person that had knee surgery the same day as me, and they were still on crutches after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Uh, and I really believe that just the going to the physical therapy wasn't enough. You really have to put the time in
Yeah.
at
Well,
home.
because of course it's not enough because it's the amount that your insurance will pay for. That's never going to be enough for, you
No, no,
know.
it really isn't.
No, it's
Uh,
they obviously can't, you know, they can't be there for you 24 hours a day, and it doesn't make sense that 3 times a week or 2 times a week is going to be enough to be a thing, and that's why they give you the plan to use afterwards. It's like anything else. But
yeah,
I can understand also, I'm not trying to judge people who have trouble with that because I can totally understand not doing it too. I mean,
oh,
I'm definitely understand that.
it's listen. It's it's painful, and I always
Yeah.
joke when we talked about this before, is that when I've had I had a serious knee surgery, and uh, I would always joke that I learned a whole bunch of new swear words going
Yeah.
through therapy, you
Yeah.
know, uh, because it hurt. It wasn't very comfortable.
No.
Uh, but when you see the progress, for me, I see the progress. It got me there, I also don't think you have to go to an extreme like what I was doing, two sets of exercises a day rather than one,
No, you could
but
just do
just
the
doing the one.
recommendations or whatever,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
it's the same thing with walking. I look at walking, and everybody, not everybody, but folks I talk to about walking, they say, "Oh, geez, I don't have time for it." I said, "Oh, you don't have to do much.
No.
Walk around the block. A
Yeah.
15-minute walk, a 10-minute walk is doing something, and it's better than saying, no, I can't do it."
Well, that's what I was doing. But at the time, I started doing it because at the time I didn't have a lot of hours at work.
Hmm.
And I said, well, I'm going to do a half an hour every day. And
Yeah.
even on days that I worked, that was doable because I could do things for a half an hour. And I started with like 20 minutes because, I didn't want to like hurt myself or whatever. And I got up to about a half an hour every day doing some sort of walking, whether it was just to the dog park that's next door or to the neighborhood or, it was raining one day and I literally did laps inside my apartment. And the thing that got me, I actually kind of stopped talking about it with people
Mhm.
because it was kind of unimpressive for people because most people like to go further with things and
Yeah,
most people think you're not achieving anything unless you're achieving a lot.
that's
And
right.
I was doing like 3,000 steps.
Yeah.
That's all. I was limiting myself to that because I didn't want to overdo things. I wasn't out for any kind of goal. I was doing 3,000 steps. And everybody's like, you're supposed to get 10,000 steps a day. And I was just like,
Yeah, I've
I'm
heard
just
that.
trying.
I've heard that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, and
It's not, it's like the people who were like, you've only drunk 7 glasses of water, so you haven't had your 8 glasses, so you haven't had enough water, so you must be dehydrated. It's like, that's
the
not,
yeah, the problem with the problem with the mindset that you're going to do, from my standpoint, that you're going to do 10,000 steps, for example, is that the amount of time it takes you to do that.
yeah,
And to keep that motivation up is not easy to do. And it's very, with that kind of goal in mind, all of a sudden you don't reach that 10,000, or you don't have time to do the
right.
10,000. And then maybe you have 2 or 3 days, or a week that you can't do it. Or for some reason you injure yourself,
Yeah.
and or you're sick and you can't do the activity, and it can be very hard to get back up there. So if you do, again, is what you're talking about. If you do a little bit, it's better than nothing. I mean, we'll walk. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I was feeling good doing my stupid 3,000 steps because incidentally, at my job, I do a lot more than that in walking. I walk all day at my
yeah,
job. And in my previous job, when I worked at the hospital, I was doing like 15 to 20,000 steps a day.
yeah,
And that was the other thing I was going to say. You were talking about what if you can't do it? What if you do 10,000 steps a day and you plateau in whatever goal you're trying to do?
right.
What are you going to do? Go to 20,000, 30,000,
Yeah,
40,000?
yeah,
That's when you see people who are like, "Sorry, I can't socialize or do anything else because I have to go to the gym 4 times a day
yeah.
because I've hit my limits, you
Yeah,
know."
it's true. It's very true. I remember I went to the doctor, and I had we were talking about what I did for walking and stuff, and he would say he says most of my patients don't even come close to that.
Yeah,
And I said, yeah, but it's not even that much. I mean, if I'm talking 7,500, steps a day, just for the sake of argument. And he said, they don't even do that much. They they do none. He says, so the whole argument for the 10,000 steps, or is it's a time thing. And if you can do it, great.
yeah,
But all you need is to do something. It's like I said, my neighbor, he started just walk around one block, and then you get in that routine where that one block doesn't take him all day.
right.
And he can fit it in.
Well, and that goes to the idea of recommendations not being the same for everybody, which
Yep.
is why you shouldn't really put too much credence behind a lot of those recommendations for people like drinking 8 glasses of water a day and walking 10,000 steps a day and having, any of those medical recommendations or health care, your health recommendations or secrets doctors don't want you to know kind of articles, is because you can't make a blanket recommendation for everybody because we're not all the same, you know?
Well, it's funny you just mentioned the 8 glasses of water a day. I often wonder if you drink that much water, are you flushing out nutrients that your body doesn't have a chance to maintain to keep, by
Um,
just constantly drinking that much? Is that,
well, that would probably take a little more than 8 glasses to do something like that. You're talking about like hypovolemia.
Yep,
Which can be dangerous. There was a woman
right,
who died during one of those contests where they were trying to, it was hold your Wii for a Wii. She was trying to get a Nintendo Wii and she drank a bunch of gallons of water and died because she became hypovolemic. But drinking 8 glasses of water a day probably wouldn't flush out too much because what's going on when you're flushing is that those nutrients have already gone to the kidneys. It's not that they move faster when you drink the water. So that's okay. But you can, if you drink too much water, more water than you need, you can mess up your electrolytes if you're not careful.
yep,
But that's like I said, like the hypervolemia type of thing that can
Right,
happen.
right.
That's not me just making an excuse to not drink water because I do
Hey,
try.
it's going to
And
screw me up if I drink 8 glasses of water. Well,
yeah, sorry, I can't do that. I don't want to make myself sick. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah, and it's also
yeah,
the other thing I actually, when we talk about that, I subscribe to is that that if you're drinking any kind of liquid,
yeah.
unless it's Coke, something that's high in sugar, it's not always. It doesn't equate to drinking uh, water completely, but it doesn't not equate
It
to it.
doesn't
In other
take it
words,
away. Yeah,
drink
it's
coffee doesn't do the same thing as water. The
right.
amount of caffeine that you intake with the coffee does not cause enough of an issue to
No.
negate having some kind of liquids.
No,
So,
exactly. And yeah, exactly that.
right,
It doesn't take away the water. And
right,
that's why they say fluids, by the way, instead of water when they
that's right.
make those recommendations.
Yeah,
It's the same concept that some people laugh at me when I introduce, but some people really believe it. Salad dressing doesn't erase the vegetables that
yeah,
you're eating.
yeah. No,
I used to get a lot of shit for putting a lot of salad dressing on salad.
yeah.
And yes, I'm adding a lot of it because I really love the really bad for you salad dressings like Thousand Island and stuff, honey mustard salad dressing, and all those really like high calorie, high fat salad dressings.
Yeah,
But I still ate a whole plate of vegetables, so shut up.
yeah,
Like, but it's true. You don't erase the vegetables because you put salad dressing or cheese or croutons on your salad.
no, no,
Like you're still doing something. That's not gonna it's not gonna help if you're measuring calories, but by the way, that's not measuring calories is not the end all be all of whatever it is you're trying to do no matter what. So
no, no. Yeah,
it's not as simple as that. So but yeah, so that's fun. So the next one is festivals.
mhm.
We had the Topsfield Fair, which is fun. That's like a,
Oh yeah.
state fair type thing. But
Mhm.
I'm really interested in all those weird festivals. Like, they have normal ones, like they have like Oktoberfest and stuff like that. But festivals that are dedicated to unusual things. Like a lot of them are cryptids, like Bigfoot and Mothman and things like that. Like the Mothman Festival in West Virginia is huge. It becomes this huge town celebration where, of course, you get to bring the vendors in, you bring contests in, you bring food and dancing and interesting stuff, but it's all about like Mothman, who was like a cryptid in West Virginia.
Mhm.
And there are so many states that do Bigfoot festivals, which I think is really fun. I'd love to go to one
Yeah.
someday. But the thing that started this was I was reading a thing about a Thanksgiving turkey drop. Do you remember that episode of WKRP?
Oh, and
Um,
which one is it?
the
Which show?
TV show WKRP in
Oh
Cincinnati.
yeah, yeah. They
Yeah.
did a turkey
You remember
dropper.
the turkey
Yeah,
drop and it didn't go well, and the
yeah.
station manager was like, I swear I thought turkeys could fly. Which, by the way, they can just as short distances. But basically in the TV show, the turkeys just thudded to the ground and all died, and they dropped a bunch of them from a helicopter or whatever. There is a town in Arkansas, Yellville, Arkansas, which, if that's not an Arkansas town name, I don't know what is.
Yeah,
Where do you live? It could be called Hollerville, but it's called Yellville.
yeah,
Um, so since the 40s, the town has dropped a live turkey from a low-flying plane for the festival. And what they do is they drop the turkey, and the turkey's still alive, and then they chase after the turkey, and I don't know, presumably somebody catches it and wins. And they have a festival. They have like probably dancing and music and food and all kinds of fun
yeah.
stuff. In 2018, they had to stop the festival. They had to stop
Okay,
the
why?
turkey drop because of animal cruelty
Oh,
concerns.
of course, yeah, of course, yeah.
And like when you go on the website that talks about it, it's not PETA exactly, but it's a very similar like
Yeah.
how to save poultry, how to not eat birds and how to save
Yeah.
birds. And but yeah, but I just kept thinking of the WKRP episode. But then I really want to go to some of these festivals. There's so many of them, but I only listed a few. The Underwater Music Festival is in the Florida Keys, so we could
Oh, okay,
technically
well,
go to that. So divers, they go underwater with music speakers, and they
Mhm.
do whatever they do. But then there's a festival on land that's probably dedicated to all kinds of
Okay.
underwater things. The Mothman Festival I mentioned. There's a Jackalope Days in Wyoming, if you've heard of the
Jackalope. I've heard
jackalope.
that before. Yeah.
Yes. The Jersey Devil has a festival in New Jersey,
Mhm.
uh, which sounds like a lot of fun. But then you have to go to New Jersey, so I don't know.
Jersey. Okay.
Yeah. We're from Massachusetts, it's gonna take a bit to get us to go to New Jersey. There's another cryptid called the Squonk.
The what?
Squonk. Yeah, I learned about this on one of my podcasts I listened to. And it has a festival. It's in Pennsylvania. It has a festival called Squonkapalooza. And actually, the squonk is a really funny cryptid. I forget what he actually does, but the main thing about this cryptid is that he's ugly and that he's really sad about how ugly he is and he cries all the time. Isn't that the most?
Uh,
Yeah, so Squonkapalooza.
yeah.
There's the Goatman Festival in Kentucky. But then there's some other ones like can you guess a food-based festival that might be in Waikiki?
Pineapple.
Okay, could be pineapple. Something funnier. Something they eat a lot of in
Uh,
Hawaii. Oh, spam.
Spam.
Yeah, did you know that?
No, I didn't.
I thought everybody knew that. Okay. Hawaii is huge on spam. They love spam in Hawaii. They have like
Oh,
they have food trucks in Hawaii that
hmm.
make like a spam sushi called spam musubi, where it looks
Oh,
like a sushi with the rice and then the
uh-huh.
seaweed that's wrapped around it, but it's spam instead of fish. So,
Huh.
for understandable reasons, spam is very big in Hawaii because everything costs a lot of money there. It's kind of hard to import like
Right.
fresh meats and
Hmm.
fresh things. So, spam, and
Spam.
also it was a military. There was a lot of military there.
Oh yeah, spam. Yeah. Well, that's part of the rations. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so spam became very big in Hawaii, probably because of military presence there, but also because of it's shelf stable and the availability of it, and everything's so expensive for
Right.
groceries in
It
Hawaii.
is. Yeah.
So yeah,
Hmm.
so they're obsessed with spam. So they have a spam festival. It's called Spam Jam.
Spam jam. Okay.
Yes. Um, and then there's one that I just want to talk about for a couple minutes. It's called Frozen Dead Guy Days, and it's in Nederland, Colorado.
Okay.
Okay, so the backstory here is that this Norwegian citizen, he came to the U.S. and he
Mhm.
brought his dead grandfather with him, frozen,
Okay.
on dry ice. And this is
So.
Grandpa Brito is the guy's name.
Mhm.
Now he kept him in a cryogenic facility in California, so he actually like legitimately transferred him to a facility.
Mhm.
Uh, but then when he came to Colorado, he brought Grandpa back and put him on dry ice. And what he planned to do was to open his own cryogenic facility and have other customers and things like that. People who wanted to be frozen, just in case. But then this poor guy was deported back to Norway. And his mother was put in charge of the body. And so she kept him in the shed in the back, just on some dry ice,
On dry ice. Okay.
yeah, along with some other bodies, because apparently they had accumulated some customers. Now, she was later evicted for living in her house without electricity or water, and all of her utilities were put into the shed. She had
Mhm.
no utilities in her house, which I guess in Colorado was illegal. You couldn't live without electricity or water. So she was
Okay.
evicted. And when she was evicted, it was revealed that the grandfather's body was still in the shed. And so they were going to just like take him away, and probably thaw him out. But because of the public interest in the story, it became such a sensation. They made an exception for Grandpa Brito, and they hired a company to maintain the quote unquote facility, and keep him maintained. Now, this town, every year, they have a festival in his honor. It's called Frozen Dead Guy Days. And they do like, okay, so some of the things they do at this festival, this is why these festivals are fun. They do a Frozen Dead Guy look-alike contest.
Okay.
They do like a coffin race where you do like boxcar races or Is that what that's called? Yeah, you do
Yeah.
like races, but in coffins instead of like your cars. Um, they do one of those, of course, Arctic plunges that I'm never going to do in my life. You know how some
Oh,
people
yeah.
do that where they
Yep.
jump into the
Mhm.
cold water? Yeah. There's a dance called Grandpa's Blue Ball. And there's an ice cream company that sponsors it that makes frozen dead guy flavor. Doesn't that sound like fun? I love it. I love these kind of things. So that's my favorite one so far. So I'd like to go to that. There's a this one's, I guess it's technically a festival, but I'm sure there's millions of them around the country. It's a cook-off, right?
Mhm.
Uh, in Crossville, Tennessee, called the Roadkill Cook-Off.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like something you'd like
That's
to go to. Yeah.
yeah.
The Gilroy Garlic Festival in Gilroy, California.
Okay. Okay.
Sounds
I
like
think I've heard of that one. Yeah.
there's a garlic restaurant in San Francisco that I loved. Speaking again of San Francisco, called the Stinking Rose,
Ah,
and everything is garlic. Like every dish has a lot of garlic, and they have an ice
mhm.
cream. They have a garlic ice cream,
Garlic ice cream. Okay.
which I've tried.
That's
Yeah, it's not as bad as you think because you know when you roast garlic, it's kind of sweet.
mhm.
It would have like it was basically vanilla ice cream that had roasted garlic in it. It was actually pretty good.
Mhm.
I couldn't eat as much as they gave me, but it was pretty good. Obviously, Roswell, New Mexico has a
Oh, yeah.
UFO festival.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a festival called okay. There's a festival called Standing on the Corner. Can you guess where that might be?
New York. I don't.
No, it's Winslow, Arizona.
Ah, the Eagles.
Yes. And during that festival, you can take a selfie on that corner in Winslow,
Mhm. Yeah.
Arizona. Yeah.
Okay.
The Calaveras County Fair is still going on with the Jumping Frog Jubilee,
Mm-hmm.
which is also very cool and I would like to go to. And there's in Colorado, there's a Mike the Headless Chicken Festival. Do you remember Mike the Headless Chicken?
No, I don't. No.
Mike the Headless Chicken was famous.
Hmm.
Basically, this guy, this farmer, was just going to kill one of his chickens just to eat, and he kind of missed with the axe, and he cut off the chicken's head. But the thing about chickens, they have like part of their brain is in like the back of their head, like right where the spine meets,
Yeah.
and he cut off what appeared to be all of the head, but not all of the brain. And you've heard about a headless chicken running around after you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They say for so many days or something like that.
Right, and that
Yeah.
happens because of where their brainstem is,
Right.
but Mike was cut in such a way that he didn't just run around the yard. He stayed alive for like months. And
Really?
yeah, and he was still like he was feeding him through the hole in his neck and stuff. And so
Okay.
yeah, and this guy took him on tour like around the country and he became like a sideshow type of thing. Yeah, you should look them up. It's very funny actually. But they have a festival every year. I assume in the town where the farmer lived. I didn't research that.
Right.
But yeah, Mike the Headless Chicken. The Pink Flamingo Day Festival is maybe not where you would think, but maybe if you remember one of our previous episodes about pink flamingos,
Hmm.
they were actually invented in Massachusetts by that guy.
Really?
You remember I told you about him? Um,
Yep.
so every year in Leominster, Mass, they have Pink Flamingo Day. And in Minnesota, they have your favorite, which is a sauerkraut festival.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and they didn't take the opportunity to call it sauerkraut and hungry looks, but yeah, they have a sauerkraut festival.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so this is one of those things that I would love to do. Like if I ever got the chance to retire in such a way that I could stay active, like maybe if we had an RV or something. This would be
Hmm.
what I would want to do if we ever retired with an RV is to travel across the country and do all of these weird festivals, but also see all those weird roadside attractions that we talked about before
Yeah. Yeah.
and all the weird museums. And I want to see like the biggest ball of twine and, the world's biggest corn on the cob and all this kind of stuff. But I would love to go to some of these festivals. It's like, the Topsfield Fair was a good all around farm festival,
Hmm.
but it didn't have anything too weird. I mean, Robinson's Racing Pigs is a little bit weird.
Right.
And it had the huge, it's known for their huge pumpkin contest, but like Otherwise, it's just your standard county fair.
Right.
But yeah, I would love to go to something weird. Like, I don't know if I'm into the Mothman thing, but I don't know. I kind of like the idea of some of these. Would you
Mhm.
go to would you go to any of the ones I talked about? Did they pique your interest at all?
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe the garlic one.
maybe the garlic one. I don't know. It'd be just like walking into an Italian restaurant, so
Yeah, they need to have like a salami festival or something.
yeah, it's like I was thinking as we were talking about it, and it's not exactly the same thing about festivals and stuff. But when I was in Colorado, there was a place I went to, and I think I told you about it, Idaho Springs, Colorado,
Maybe.
and they had a statue of Steve Canyon.
Hmm.
Steve Canyon was a comic strip character from originated in during right after World War, 1947,
Oh, okay.
and he was just this hero that did all kinds of things. He had a sidekick, and his patriotic rhetoric and stuff like this, and for some reason, Idaho Springs felt like they needed to boost up their place in Colorado, so they did this Steve Canyon statue. The canyon, the statue still exists, but it's been moved out of central Idaho Springs. But I remember visiting it, and it was kind of a weird, cool thing. Uh,
He
you
kind of
know,
looks like I'm looking at the comic. It kind of looks like they were trying to make like G.I. Joe, but for the Air Force.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. It was interesting. I think that was the they had a lot of stuff going on in the town that was sort of small town stuff. You could get a apple pie that was like a big hunk of apple pie, a big piece of apple pie. I remember that having it there.
Oh
But it
yeah.
was just, I don't know why, when you talked about the festivals, it made me think of that. And I think they had a yearly festival for, to about the Steve Canyon. They have the Steve Canyon Parade. So
Oh
anyway,
yeah. No, they
yeah,
sound, I mean, and every state has one, of course.
yeah,
Maybe we could do maybe we could do a series where we could do one for every state.
yep,
I just went on Wikipedia and there's like festivals in Florida.
right. Oh,
And of
yeah,
course, like, I mean, I already know there's some in my town. I wouldn't call them festivals. I would call them, oh God, here it comes again, like
yeah.
bike week and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly.
Biketoberfest. Um, Actually, Biketoberfest isn't as bad because it is kind of shorter and better. But there's a Billy Bowlegs Pirate Festival.
Mm.
There's a Boggy Bayou Mullet Festival, which
Well,
sounds like a lot of fun. Fellsmere Frog Leg Festival. Yeah, let's do wow, there's a lot. Let's do that.
yeah, yeah, the
Let's
one I can think of, although I never went to it, was the Feast of Saint Anthony in the North End.
Oh
And
yeah, I bet
basically,
that's
the
huge.
whole North End is shut off while they have the Feast of Saint Anthony. Um, and it's a big parade, and they have all kinds of food and stuff like that there. So it still goes on every year. So
Well, that sounds good.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look up some different festivals and I mean, of course there are some that are not funny. Uh,
yeah,
but it's funny because I know I'm not into crowds and I'm not into traveling to places. I'm not into parking and having to go to a thing.
yeah,
But there is something appealing about a festival where it's just like, you're just walking around and there's vendors and you get to look at cool art and there's
yeah.
people trying to sell stuff. The food is always good. And then they have these events that are unique. I don't know. It just seems like,
Yeah, they have it in, when they do the Christmas tree lighting in downtown Ocala, where they'll have all that going on. They'll have food trucks and stuff like that, and it gets it's pretty crowded,
yeah.
so they really gets a lot of attention. So
Oh, yeah. And of course, I come from a town that gets very, very crowded in October.
yeah,
Uh,
yep,
ugh, but I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. But then you got,
and
is it like is that bad or is the bikes down here bad? I don't know. I haven't
I
decided.
don't know which is worse. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
At least I
Yeah.
can drive and they're not in the middle of the street. Oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all my stuff. Is that all your
Okay.
stuff?
All my stuff.
All
Yeah.
right. So folks, if you enjoyed this, send us an email at mochiverse@gmail.com. You can come and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you can get podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on iHeartRadio, we're everywhere. If you go to Apple Podcasts, if you could give us a 5-star rating, that would really help us. People might see us there and they might say, "What is this? What is this? Let's listen to it." And then find, "Oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever." So that'll happen. Uh, so do that. And if not, just like tell some people, just tell your friends, like, "Oh, I've been listening to this thing." And it's like, I know it's a podcast and you've never heard of that. And it's a weird word, but it's kind of like a radio show. So come and listen.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
So with that, are you gonna thrill me or am I gonna
I'm
groan?
gonna thrill for you there, kiddo.
Oh, I'm so happy.
So listen, years ago, you could go to a grocery store with $5 and walk out with several pounds of fruits, a loaf of bread, meat, cheese, milk, and much more. Nowadays, there are surveillance cameras everywhere.
Yes.
So the finger was put in detention for always picking on the nose. You know
Yeah, I
about
think
that
you
one.
told that one a couple weeks ago.
I probably did. Mount Rushmore is the only rock group that doesn't sing or play musical instruments. I don't think I've told
Nice.
that one before.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah. What do tacos say in church?
What?
Let us pray.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, uh, what's the difference between a crocodile and an alligator?
I think I know this one. One
Okay.
of
You
them,
will see one in a
yeah.
while and one later.
Yeah, one of them you'll see later.
Yeah. What does a pampered cow make?
What?
Spoiled milk.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. 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 I think I saw this before, but what's the Easter Bunny's favorite music genre?
Hip hop?
There you go. What is a pony with a sore throat called?
A little horse.
There you go. See, it fell right into it. Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay. Now you
Oh my.
start to know them now.
I
So
know. Wow, we're gonna get you another book, I think.
yeah, yeah.
All right, folks. That's it for us. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Daddy wasn't finding a bow wow. Daddy wasn't finding a bow wow. I've got a little cat. I'm very fond of that. I'd rather have a big bow wow.
Okay. A penny for your thoughts. I mean, I think we all kind of know what penny for your thoughts means.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
All right, let's start.